Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Great Sober Sex Forum. We did a bathroom break in the middle here, and so we'll postpone bathroom break later, and we'll just kind of start with John's share, and then we'll move right into question and answers, and we're checking in.
Okay, I'm John, alcoholic and compulsive eater, and also I'm addicted to most things except I've never tried crystal meth, and so that's probably a blessing because I'd probably be fucking dead. And
Hi, John.
Hi, John. And welcome to everybody here. And Nikas, thank you for asking me. And I also, Tim, I enjoyed your share. It was great. And my story is a little different. That I'm probably, there's some of you here, I'm sure I'm old enough to be your parents. So I was born in 1952, so you can do the math. And, in close to 6 months, a little over 6 months, I'll be eligible for Medicare. So, good life, But, and I've been sober, if I make it, actually I've been sober since September of '85, but totally clean and sober November 7th of 1985. So, things were different. I hear, in fact, what's that, scruff and some of these things. Actually, when Nikas had mentioned we were driving up to Bass Lake together, and he was on his phone, and we were where were we? We were in some crazy, in the middle of nowhere, and he's got a trip there lined up. Come and see him, And I mean, I'm sitting, holy shit. I mean, if I was younger and had that stuff, I'd still be out there.
Okay.
My head would still be in somebody's ass or something. I'm just thinking, holy mother. So anyhow, things are definitely different. We didn't, when I got sober, people didn't have cell phones, or some of the richer people really, and not too many, we had something you had to carry around the size of a phone book, and if you dropped it, that was the end of it. Kiss it goodbye. And even some of the first portable ones were the same way. It's a totally different thing. There was a payphone out there when I got sober, and people were running in and out of the meeting answering that phone was ringing. Who knows? So I mean, it was things are different. People were smoking down here, and so the whole thing was different. And going back my history, I come from a family. We went to church kind of seasonally. We were Protestant, Presbyterian. I was brought up in my family was in the automobile business. So the men in the family were heavy drinking, male chauvinist pigs. Kind of like the way, the story about the Kennedy family. We didn't have that kind of money, but there was money. Everything but an airplane, okay? Boats, second homes, things like that, but not big palatial places, but just good living, plenty of food, plenty of booze. I could steal alcohol from my mother when I was a teenager, and she didn't even know it was gone. I mean, there was she had a stack of old Milwaukee. She believed in quantity and quality. My mother was a drinker, and so I would steal a six-pack or two, and she wouldn't even know it. And I was glad that they drank like that because I could get away with it, because I started drinking when I was 9. I mean, to where I knew that that's what I liked to do, and I liked the effect. And of course, I remember my father, but he said something once. He was giving me a ride to school, and I don't know, I was probably around 11 or 12, and he says, "Quit acting like a goddamn queer," like that. And I said, "What?" And then I'm just thinking of the real Nelly hairdresser or something, because, and I was afraid of, that type of thing. And my family was, they were macho. My dad was a boxer, and so, that's, he boxed in the Navy and stuff. And my uncle was kind of, they would get, when before this, they had stories where they would clean out a bar and stuff, and so that's the way I was raised. And my father could be violent, and I just popped out of the womb. I was very defiant, and I always do the opposite of what I was told, and I'd get the shit knocked out of me, and so that's kind of what it was at. So I was afraid to even come out, but I think I knew that I was gay, but I didn't know what it was, and even the get caught masturbating or whatever, that to me, but if I was with a woman or a girlfriend or was doing stuff like that, that was cool. Especially the men would talk about it. Oh Christ! And my uncle had an apartment where he had women, and my grandfather had hookers at the business, and and that type of thing. And he leased trucks to bootleggers back in the my grandfather did, and so it was that type of thing. And the men would stand in the corner and tell dirty jokes. So all that type of behavior I was raised with, and so needless to say, I started dating girls, and I was sent away to private school too, because so it was a very conservative, male chauvinist type private school, that type of mentality in the fraternity. And so I had and women were, very chauvinistic, and so that's where my mindset was. So women were just sex objects, and yet I could have sex with a woman, but I think deep down inside I knew that something wasn't, and then I remember I went to Europe. And I was abusive. I had some girlfriends that I was abusive with, not physically, but just cheated on them a lot, and all that kind of behavior. So I went over to Europe, and I remember coming home drunk. I was in school for a semester over in England, and this guy followed me home from a tube stop, and I had my own place, and a tube stop is the underground, in case anybody, maybe hasn't been there. I still call it a tube stop because that's the only time I've only ridden the subways here a few times, but so sometimes I'll say, I took the tube just because we did so much over there. But this guy followed me home and gave me some head and stuff like that, and it was, I was ashamed of it, but I liked it, okay? So, and then I had another experience, and I transferred back to Syracuse, and I was in a fraternity house where it was very, homophobic kind of thing in those days, but yet deep down inside, and I had a fiance, and thank God that's all she remained so, because I tell you what, I'd be paying through the nose now. Thank God I never got married, but anyhow, I did stuff like I screwed one of my fraternity house brother's girlfriends, or didn't screw her, but we fooled around in the pantry, and so I lost my popularity pretty quick when you do shit like that, and my dick, and then I would sneak out. I did find a bar that apparently there was, there were some gay people there, and this guy picked me up and took me back to his place, and of course I was drunk as a skunk. And then another time there was I guess he was a gay TA that I met at that same place, because I went back for some more, and went into a classroom and got a blowjob there. And so I had some of those experiences, but there was a lot of shame behind it, and not for religious reasons, because I could, I still to this day I don't believe that, I could do anything so horrible that my God's going to, punish me for it. It's just, so I didn't have these weird religious, some people maybe due to their religion feel guilty. I did more because of what my father and my family would think, or what people would think, not because of religion. So anyhow, and then this fiance and I, we moved to Denver because I wanted to be in ski country. I did like to ski, and she had a brother that lived out there, and so we moved out there. And thank God, we just didn't get along, and she was a pain in the ass. And so I moved out. I just said, I lived with her for maybe about 9 months or a year, and I moved out and found a studio down near one of the big gay discos that I didn't know about, but they had something on the news about it. So I ended up going to this, and this was like in probably around 1975. And as I said, some of you maybe weren't born then. So I go down to this bar, and I had the studio, and I sat, and I remember the kind of semi-drag queen type bartender, and I just sat at the bar, and then people would come up to me, and at first I actually liked the more feminine types because I guess I didn't feel that was like, I wasn't as gay, per se, oh well, I could be drunk enough where I thought it was a woman and then it was okay or something, that mentality, because I had a lot of shame-based stuff about being gay, and I think a lot of people then did. I mean, it was you'd lose your job, you'd lose everything. I would have been disowned probably at that time if my family knew. And so, but then, I started going to that bar, and then I realized that then there was some really, let's say, masculine men, like I considered myself at that time. Now, whether I really was or not, I don't know. But, I sold life insurance back then, and but straight acting guys. So then those kind of guys were better to be around, because then if you were out in public with them anywhere, you definitely, and I'm telling you, if I saw somebody, that was effeminate or whatever that I knew out for many, many years, out in the grocery store, out somewhere in a non-bar situation, I didn't want to talk to them, because of the shame and the stigma of being gay or whatever, and even boyfriends, I would say, don't call me at work. I will call you. You do not call me at my office or my work. And that's it. And but I didn't go so far as to make necessarily a false name about who I am. I have one friend actually I discovered we worked together for the same company, but he lived about maybe 40 miles away in a suburb, and I ran into him in one of the sleazy bars. There was a bar I used to go to called the Triangle Lounge. This is in Denver. So that's where I live. And half the bar would be standing and the other half on their knees. Had a reputation for it. He'd get fucked on the pool table. Anything went in that place. It was wild in those days. And I mean, but boy, unfortunately the cops didn't go in there. I don't know. They just, because those days you got arrested, I mean, the cops would wait for people to jaywalk, though, in front of this Broadway, this big disco. And, in those days it was different, But so I just found it, so then, I started coming out. I mean, at that point it was like a kid in a candy store. But I lived a very, very compartmentalized life. I had many partners. I used to love to get fucked. I started to like that. And, but then, you talked about going to the clinic. And, in those days, of course, this was pre-AIDS. This was in the mid-'70s, just when Donna Summer, in the disco. And those days were just wild. And I smoked a lot of pot, too. I did that during the day and then got drunk crazy at night. And so I went out, I just went out every night drinking and partying and whoring around. And I had a contest with one guy as to how many tricks we could have. And I mean, I don't know, we got in how many days? I don't know, I think one year I hit about 300 or something, like different partners, or more. I don't know, but we had a contest, and this guy was funny, we just crazy. And those days you didn't have to worry, but then I'd go to the clinic and they give you, I just say, give me a shot of penicillin, because if I took, they had I'm trying to remember what it was, but an antibiotic in pill form, and you'd have to wait a week before you could go drink, And I said, screw that shit, give me a damn shot in the ass, and then I can go out and fuck at night and get drunk, and that day, And but I realized after a few times I got it in the ass more. I got something there, and I think just about every dick that went in my ass got sucked first, and I never got it in the throat. So it occurred to me, and yet this is just kind of common sense type thinking, that maybe things grow more in there, and then the AIDS thing started about the late 70s, early 80s, and yet it hadn't hit Denver that much, but San Francisco. And I thought, I better quit screwing. And of course, I went to the, except maybe with somebody I really want to, with as other than laying in a sling or just kind of having 10 people at the bathhouse, which I used to do. And we had a bathhouse in Denver that I swear was the best bathhouse I ever saw in my life. I still, to this day, if I was living there and that place was open, I'd be still going there. It had waterfalls, it had all these fun things to do, and I mean, it was just a lot of fun. It was clean, relatively, and they had a truck in there where you could get in the cab of the truck and fuck, and they had these neat fish tanks built into the walls, and these big, the steam room was actually like a cave, and you go in there, and it was just the most fantastic thing you could ever imagine, of course, and never spent any time sober there. I mean, so nothing. It was wild, and that place closed. I like to think it was because I moved here to L.A., but it was kind of around that time period. It did, but that's when the AIDS crisis got bad and it started to hit Denver. In fact, my ex-lover worked at the bathhouse here. In fact, I took him there for the first time, and then he liked it, and then he ended up getting a job because he was a good looker, and he even sang this song, Rodeo Jack. They call him Rodeo Jack. He put on a cowboy hat, and he was a nice-looking kid, and just a few years younger than me. And unfortunately, we broke up but we kind of remained friends, and he is the reason why I moved out here, because my drinking got so bad that actually they would sometimes not let me in the ballpark because I was such a drunk, and my reputation got bad, and a couple times I didn't even make it in the place. I would leave my car in the ignition, and they didn't have a lot of parking, so then you parked in the bank parking lot. And I had this 79 Cadillac DeVille, and I had just filled up the tank. I had a 3-piece suit on from business, and I got kicked out of I didn't get kicked out that night, but I was there, till closing, looking for a trick. So, where do you go? You go to the baths. And it was winter time, and it had, I don't know if any of you know what the old Cadillac Comfortron air conditioning heaters, but I had the thing on red, trying to get the thing heated up. It was cold. It was probably 20 degrees out, winter time. I pull in the parking lot, and I don't know, I just kind of kept it running and put it in gear, and maybe was smoking a joint before I go in so we could smoke in there too. And then I ended up just passing out, and I wake up and the sun's coming down in through there, and the car's still running. I'm lucky I didn't die, but that's the type of thing, and that's the type of drunk I was, and so they, maybe that saved me too. But I followed my ex out here because he moved out here. He had a sugar daddy that he ended up, he moved in out here trying to become an actor, and so I came out to visit, and I loved it so much out here, and I'd been here before. I packed up and just moved, you know, and liquidated stuff and came out here, and you know, but I was reaching my bottom, and I knew I needed a change, and people didn't want me around because, you know, when I would drink, and people were trying to control my drinking, and then of course, you know, I was out, you know, gallivanting along. It was hard for me to really stay in a good relationship because I was the type, if I dated you and went to a party and there was another hot guy, I'd take that hot guy and go to another bedroom in somebody's house I didn't even know, you know, and do shit like that. But you know, that was very common in those days, and you know, it got kind of scary, and then I came out here and ended up getting you know, through you know, time. I had one of my ex's boyfriends. He and I hooked up out here, a guy that I had met in Denver that came by, and you know, we went out a little bit, or went down. We go down to Laguna Beach and stay at some of those, not at the Boom Boom, but there was a Hotel Forenza or something. I don't know if that, it's probably all changed, but did any of you know the Boom Boom Room? Well, I used to, yeah, some of the older guys do, and I used to go down there, and you know, we'd get the young service guys and have a good time down there, and I, you know, we'd have cocaine and drink on the beach and go down to West Beach, and then it just, you know, all that stuff stopped working, and you know, but I hit this emotional bottom where I was thinking of suicide. I was not happy, and it just, and I was getting paranoid. I wasn't enjoying, you know, and I tried to control it. I tried to control it before I moved here, part of moving here, but then go off and on. And then this sugar daddy of my ex's, and he was a big shot with NBC and stuff, and he'd have some nice parties. He lives up on, probably still has a place up on a place called Q Drive off of Laurel Canyon, about 3/4 of the way up Mulholland, towards Mulholland, and it was a nice spot up there. And I'd get invited up, but then, you know, my ex would say, "You watch your drinking and stuff." And so I was talking to this he had a boyfriend or a sugar daddy, and you know, saying, you know, I need to do something, but you know, it's just hard because I don't want to drink or go out too much. But you know, how am I supposed to go out and get laid and meet people and all that stuff? And so he said, well, you ought to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I got a lot of friends and people that are in the industry, good-looking hot guys from West Hollywood that go to these meetings. And so I says, well, I guess that's an idea, but you know, and I didn't know much about Alcoholics Anonymous other than some guy, a guy that I had a fling with in Denver. He had a good job and had said his boss made him go to some meetings, but he says, I don't have a problem because I can stop after 5 drinks. And I said, I couldn't stop after the first one, and I would try to play that game. I could never, it was like if I walked through that door and had a drink, I wouldn't be able to stop, and then I'd be either closing the place or they would cut me off. You know, and you know, that type of thing. And so you know, I ended up coming here, and I called the Gay and Lesbian Center, and you know, they would cut me off at a place called Rafters down here on Santa Monica Boulevard. Of course, if you go down to the Spike, I don't know, is the Spike even still around?
No, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know because I don't venture down there, but you know, if you could crawl on your hands and knees and put the money up to the bar, they'd serve you, and then you go. You know, I'd pick up guys there, but Jesus Christ, you know, just like me, you know, low bottom. Yeah.
Can I just remember, just so get sober, and then what? Tell us about your sober sex life. Like, it's like, tell us about the sex.
Okay, well, I'm about to get sober. So in other words, that was kind of my bottom, and that's the type of stuff I was doing. So I guess when I got sober, I came here looking for men as opposed to, I mean, yeah.
Oh, it's a
Yeah, that's what led me here, because I am such a tramp. But I don't want to, so I figured, well, I can come here and meet men. And so I couldn't stand being home alone, and I made a call to the Gay and Lesbian Center. They referred me to here. Well, almost 31 years ago was when I came into these rooms, to this room here, shortly after this place was purchased. And that was a night, that was a good, that was the start at 11 o'clock. And so I came down here, and that's how I started sober. So, and what I did, the old saying that, and I don't know, now it's a little scary because of the crystal meth and stuff, because there was a little bit of that stuff around, but not that much. I mean, thank God I never was exposed to it. I was exposed to a needle cocaine once, and I'm glad I just decided to snort my portion. They did theirs, and we had an orgy. But anyhow, coming here, I hooked up with a few people in the rooms. I remember one guy in particular. I think I had about 2 weeks, and this guy was a couple of years younger than me. I was 33 when I got almost 30, kind of 33 and a half. And this guy was probably 28, but 6 years clean and sober, I remember. And he was a teacher, had a master's degree, good-looking Latin guy, very hot, And I don't know, somehow we connected, and let's go have some coffee. Well, then we go out the door, and he says to me, and he was so aggressive about it. And I'm a newcomer, but see, I could not be 13 step. That was not because I was definitely looking for, anything. And I did, I worked the rooms like a bar. And this guy, but, and he says, well, why don't we go to your place? And I did have my own apartment. And so then right away I knew, I says, this guy's married, he's got a lot of money. Which then I thought, that's a good thing, because I don't want to get into a relationship. I do not want to. I just, and then it was said that it's probably a good idea not to. Though I've never heard anybody say you can't have sex, because one of our more prominent members, she says, and others have said, it's pretty hard to drink if you got a dick in your mouth. But of course, things are a lot different now, and I definitely avoid staying in slippery places. So I think if you can connect, for me, I would connect with people, and I met people, and then I had fuck buddies. Now, this guy did have a relationship he lived with, but, we respected each other, and every once in a while we would, decide, and I mean, why before 5 or 6 years, once in a blue moon, we would, and then I had many, other people I met, and then but once in a while I would go out to the slippery places. Now, they had a bathhouse here across from catty corner from Trader Joe's called Max Baths. And I don't know, that place probably closed maybe 28 years ago or something. So I used to like to go there, and a lot of people from AA would go there too. And I always felt, because, it was just, as I said, that, maybe people smoked pot in the places, but, it wasn't like it's rampant now with the hard drugs and stuff. And so it was always a place that I felt, well, I could do in those days. So I was out doing that sort of thing, going there, and then I would run into people I know, from the meetings and stuff that were sober and had good sobriety. And I even went to Flex, when it first kind of opened and they fixed it up. I don't know if it had been a bathhouse before or whatever, but maybe, I haven't been there though. It's been, probably 20 years since I've been there, but, I've been around here, and I've been in a relationship since 1999. 97. I can't say that I behave myself 100%, but you know, we don't have an open relationship, but we're not going to kill each other if, you know, it's just I don't do anything openly to make him feel jealous or whatever. But I mean, you know, I had told him when I met him, I'm a little like Bill Clinton, you know, back when he was president, because that's when we met, you know. And I said, I have some of that, but I said I won't do anything to make you feel jealous or whatever. And you know, and I don't screw around in the rooms with anybody anymore, because you know it wouldn't be appropriate anymore for me to do that. But you know, I go out.
Any more?
Well, not in the rooms. I get I maybe if I want something a little extra, I go get a massage or I do something like that. You know, there's places you can go and things. And see, back then too, you could get an ad out of the Frontiers. See, those were more popular. If you wanted to go look for something, you know, and you could put an ad in the Frontiers or whatever to hook up with people. But you know, and you laugh because
I'm sorry, I didn't say it.
Oh no, but you know, yeah, but some of the older guys would know that. Other people, you know, this Grinder, what's the other one called? Scruff, and all these things. It's like I don't even know how to work it. You know, I mean, I still wouldn't know how. I mean, I actually tried one. I think I tried one of those, and it was just so weird. You know, but you know, it's just it's interesting how things have changed, and so. But fortunately, I didn't have that a shift, and I guess because even before I got sober, I would, you know, if I had a boyfriend or something, there would be some sober sex. And actually, one of my boyfriends, not one that came out with me, but another one I had, you know, we're friends on Facebook, but you know, we used to, you know, he still drinks, but he's not an alcoholic. But I was mean, you know, and it was not a good relation, not a healthy relationship. But he's a nice guy, and I think he's settled down with somebody else now, many years later. But I was 30 years old when we were together, and he made a joke. He says, "Yeah, I remember you disappeared for a few days when you turned 30 because I thought I was so old, and you know, here I am, I'm 64 years old, you know, and, you know, life's pretty good. But I do, you know, sober sex, you know, I'm kind of more vanilla, you know, and I guess because I just haven't had the crystal, but I used to do a lot of poppers, and so I could imagine, I thought I would not be able to have sex without poppers, but when I didn't drink, I wouldn't, because towards the end, when I was still drinking, I had so much, my thumbs turned, they would peel from doing so much poppers. And a couple of times I'd have a trick and end up having, in the middle of sex, say, I got to go down and get some more poppers when you run out. So I could imagine this crystal method would have been horrible. And, but you know, I just learned to have sex without, you know, drinking or using, and I find it best if I'm not around people, you know, around slippery places either. So that's why I Max Pass was safer than me going to a bar, and then I guess one of the last times I remember going to a bathhouse. I was in chiropractic school, and I was taking a seminar out in Palm Springs. I went to the bathhouse in Palm Springs. That place was it was dumpy, and I don't know what it's like now. I've been there in years and years and years. So this takes me back 20 years ago, and I remember meeting this guy. He was pretty hot, but it was like he was very, very strange, and so maybe he was on crystal. I don't know, but it was I think the sex was not that. I don't know. It was like a total disconnect because I'm totally sober, and he was something else, and maybe he was on crystal or something. I don't know, but you know, I just hadn't been exposed to it that much, except you know, in here when maybe some guys are all like a little bit nutty that come into the meetings. And I mean, I had a sponsee that was on. He was doing crystal, I guess, and I didn't even know. He said his psych meds were fucked up. So you know, I don't know. And thank God. And I hope I never have to know. You know, I don't want to know because I've had friends with long-term sobriety, and they go to places, you know, slippery places, and then this guy, after 14 or 15 years with a successful law practice, lost everything. So you know that could happen to me, and I know people with more time than me that, and I tell you what, I don't want to go there. And sometimes I feel, especially now, because so many people, I feel like, well, I don't feel like 100% a part of sometimes. But you know what? I don't want to go there. And I mean, I'm too old anyhow. Shit, somebody fucking kill me if I went out there and, you know, did that shit and picked up some young guy because he would just want to, you know, run through my bank account and do more crystal, you know. They wouldn't be interested because I'm some hot dude, because, you know, and that's the thing, if you're young and good looking, just enjoy it, because you become invisible after a while, you know. You know, you do in time, and that's just reality, and that's the way life is, but you learn how to live. And, you know, today I still, I don't have to take Viagra. I don't have to. It still works, but it's funny. My priorities, they change a little bit, and I'm just kind of glad that they have. You know, I can. It's easy for me to just kind of say no or later or something like that. And yeah, I think I do a lot of exercise and things like that, which helps me, because then I go to bed early and, you know, I sleep well. You know, even in stressful situations, I rarely have trouble getting to sleep, and I get up early and go do some exercise, and that helps. And, you know, once in a while, I have a little enjoyment in life, too, with sex and stuff like that. And, you know, I have a pretty good life today. And I've had a fair amount of social, you know, I haven't felt in the least bit deprived in my sex life or whatever since I've gotten sober. So, and this like going a year or you know, being clean, I don't know. I don't believe in that. I think, hey, go for it. But on the other hand, you just one has to be careful who you're doing it with and whatever. But you know, there's a lot of good-looking, clean and sober, or let's say people that maybe are normies who will support you. And I've always been very upfront about my recovery, and I always put my recovery absolutely first. No man will ever take my recovery away from me. You know, that's the most important thing, is that I stay clean and sober, because then, you know, I ain't gonna live if I do that again. I don't know what else to say, and I don't know that my sex life is overly exciting, but you know, I definitely have not been deprived whatsoever, and you know, I still enjoy it, and hopefully will continue to, without getting into too much trouble with it. So, so anyhow, so thank you all for being here, and anyhow, thank you again, Nick.
All right, so Q&A or check-ins or any of the above. I know we had a conversation yesterday that I wanted you to kind of share with the group today.
Yeah, sure. Danny Crystal Mathematic.
Danny.
Thank you, both of you guys, for your share. I spent a lot of time laughing because I recognize. I'm at the age, I don't know, maybe I'm in between. I recognize the frontiers ad.
Yeah.
I can relate to the analog world and the digital world, you know, and neither of them work for me eventually. So thank you guys for your honesty and giving us a peek at how you got through this stuff. Because I just got sober again. This is my 4th time on the merry-go-round. March 8th, so I'll have 5 months coming up, and this time. But it feels different. I'm actually working the program this time. I'm doing the work. The miracle. I stayed around till the miracle happened. People always say, "Stay till the miracle happened." And I'm so glad I kept going through the humiliation of every 2 years, like clockwork, coming back and going out, and now I've got my 5 months and a lot of happiness ahead of me. But I still, my brain is still hardwired in that bad way that it took me 20 years to create, where sex and drugs just go together. It's just rock and roll, whatever. And everyone's, I hang around a lot of other sort of newbies like myself, and they all are, we're not going to have sex for a year, we're comparing strategies, and that's just, I don't believe in that either, because I didn't get sober to sit in the room and be, celibate. I want sober sex. So I am no longer, proud to say, a sober virgin. I recently hooked up with a buddy of mine, and I just pushed through the fear. I did put, like you said, I put my cards on the table. I made it, quite clear where I'm coming from. This is not going to involve anything mind-altering, and and he was cool with it, and it was nice. I've just been experimenting, stumbling and bumbling. I shared in another meeting how some guys I kind of scared away because I went into my, I'm sober, I'm vulnerable shit too much, and it kind of bored them or scared them. But I think if you, like Nika said, if you're in a good place, you can give yourself a chance to create new memories, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going to skin my knees along the way, but I'm so glad I got that first one kind of out of the way. I didn't die, and and I didn't wait a year either. So I think it's about, what I like about this group, people are reinforcing the idea, get out there, experiment, figure out what you like, put your cards on the table, don't be skanky about it, stay away from slippery places. But I'm creating a whole new idea of what sex means. I don't have a fucking clue, because like you, I've always had drug-induced sex. It's just how it was. And I'm kind of proud of myself that I did it and it was successful, and who knows what it's going to look like. So I will never be one of those sponsors that tells people wait a year. I just don't think it's necessarily that.
Yeah, my sponsor used to say, he said, I have to turn to God to run my life because I can't run my own life. So what in the fuck would make me think I would run yours? He's like, there's just no way I can run. I can tell you what to do if I can't even fucking tell myself what to do.
Yeah, and all that euphoric recall, and we were talking about, that still happens to me, but I think the more I have these new experiences, hopefully I'll kind of rewrite over the disc in a way, and that stuff will fade away, and I'll have, constructive, positive, fantasy life and sex life. So it's my goal.
Like I shared in the group, we were talking yesterday that the phrase from the Big Book, this spiritual life is not a theory. You have to live it. And it just, that came to mind when he was talking, because it's like this sexual life is not a theory. It's not something you just like think about and kind of you fantasize and, it's just like, it's like you have to actually live it. You have to actually do it. And then all of a sudden it becomes part of you, the fabric of you. But it's not just this whole idea of thinking. Like thinking is the same thing as fear. It's just thinking, this ping pong of thinking that's just happening. And so it's only by having the experiential knowledge, right? So that's what that is. That's what I like. That's how it's experiential knowledge is everything when it comes to sober sex.
Yeah, I love what you did. That takes a lot of balls to, you didn't just talk to talk. You fucking did the experiment, big time. I just think it takes a lot of balls. People are afraid that we're going to mess up, that we're going to slip. And especially if you're like me and you have a history of relapsing, you really don't want to put yourself out there. And I just admire the way you went into it, such abandoned, but in a centered way. I wish we talked about that more. I wish more people would, be honest, be proud, and go figure it out, and not be afraid to skin your knee. what's the worst that's going to happen?
Right. I like to crosstalk, but like I didn't go into it in a centered way, per se.
Okay.
You know, it was facing a fear, and it was, you know, like putting together the groups at my house was a way to avoid temptation at like sex clubs or something. Because it's better for me to control the environment where I know there will not be any drugs than go to a place and have to avoid them. So I mean, I'm finding ways that work for me. You know, because to your point, like living experientially your sex life, mine would look different than yours, and it would look different than Jose Luis's. It would look different than anybody else's.
Right.
So it's finding that sexual reality that works for you, I think. And you know, I'm just feeling my way along the walls in the dark. So
even though so maybe on one respect you were being a little more controlling of your environment, but in another aspect you were enhancing this whole other side of you, like creating these environments and creating this space. It's like this whole other side of you was kind of growing as this was trying to.
Yeah, in a way, because like to what you said, it's not a theory; it has to be reality. Like to me, the idea that wait a minute, you know, the drug wasn't the thing that allowed me to have sex. The drug was the thing that allowed me to get rid of the fear to have sex.
Yeah.
And so the drug is not required to have sex. So by that theory, I should be able to do all these things, you know, sober.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, well, let me try that. And it was sort of testing a theory.
Right.
So creating the environment where you could have it.
Right.
It was lowering your inhibitions.
Yeah.
To allow the event to
It's
occur.
literally build it and they will come.
Yeah.
So how do you you know, I've been sober for over 13 years, and I've been sexually active, but I've done I've gone to those same environments, maybe somewhere out of fear of not wanting to be in a relationship or something like that. How do you get to the point where you're thinking, well, maybe I'm just using the act of sex to replace my addiction? What do you think about
How
that?
do you get to a place where
Yeah, well, I mean, what would you think about that? I mean, what do you think about when you're turning to sex, rather? Or let's say you have a problem in your life, and instead of going and drinking or drugging, you turn to sex as a release from that. I know I've done that. I'm totally guilty of that. And how do you temper that, control that?
I think I'm a firm believer that we all have a kernel of truth in us that we can recognize, and then we justify away, or we find rationalization around it. But I think it's as simple as: are you using sex to disconnect, or are you using sex to connect?
I think both. I mean, I honestly say sometimes I do it for just to disconnect.
Right.
It could be just simply the action of going on stuff and just looking around, or simply or following through with those actions, or going to a back house, or checking those things out. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm guilty of it. I don't think it's a day-to-day occurrence, but I think that definitely has played.
But I
It's
think
part of my sobriety, and it could be an aid to that. It doesn't necessarily mean I just want to throw that out there.
But even the way that you're talking about it, like guilty, is it a guilty thing? Only you. I mean, nobody here can answer that question for you. You're the arbiter of your own sex life. But you know, I would say, you know, give yourself a little bit of a break. Is it a bad thing? You will know if it is, deep down inside.
Yeah, I think you always recognize it, or the degrees of which.
Yeah, you know, it's learning how to parse out what is fundamental to you as a person, I think, and what is a means of escape, I guess. That's, you know.
Yeah, some of what you're talking about there, like fundamentally, we all know what's true for us. And my spiritual this guy, Adi Shanti, talks about, like, you know, you have a body that's a sensing organ. It's like this big mechanism that you wear. That when you go through life and you do something that's not true, that does not feel true to you, you feel it. You feel it's just, you know it. You can't avoid it. It's like, it's just, you know, your body will tell you whether or not something is being true. So, and I think that what you're talking about is awareness, right? So I need to bring awareness. You know, what's that guy? He's German guy who wrote the book.
Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah. He, I saw him, and we were at this Wisdom 2.0 conference in San Francisco, which is it's kind of like wisdom and technology put together. And the main thing that people were pushing there was mindfulness. And he got up on stage and was like, I hate this word mindfulness. This is so ridiculous. It's mind. And he says, but if you have to use it, he says, here's my definition. It's being aware where your awareness is going. So I think that so much of that is like, I need to be aware of what I'm aware of. Like I need to know my attention has to be on where my attention is going. So if my attention is going this way, I have to be able to see it. And the only way that I know that I've been able to do it is to have a meditation practice to where I actually stop. I actually cease doing and start just being in that place of awareness. And then all of a sudden when my awareness goes someplace, I can follow it. But it only comes from having that place of just being in no mind. You know, that there's where mind is going. That's where attention is going. That's where.
Well, you were talking about mindfulness, and I took mindfulness training. It started with Marsha Linehan out of the University of Washington in Seattle, and the whole point of mindfulness is you take a deep breath and you clear your mind. It can be meditation, but the whole point is to be aware. My heart's racing. My hands are shaking.
Yeah.
I'm feeling anxiety because if the mind's racing, you're not aware of what you're feeling. You talk about it being in the body, but that's been, she started doing mindfulness classes back in 1993, and, coming from I was sexually abused as a child, so, it was really hard for me. It took me until 2005. I started in 2000 really dealing with the sexual abuse, and a lot of my crystal meth use was around that. So, for me, you talking about mindfulness and going to this conference and discussing it, and then for me, I'm in between the age group. I mean, you were born in the 50s, he was born in the 70s, I'm in the 60s, so I kind of relate to both of your shares, John, because, I'm in that transition period, Generation X, going from the bars and the bathhouses to Scruff and Grindr, which I was a failure at. The apps, I don't have the dick death, I don't look like a porn star. I'm a very average person, but I have a very unusual personality. So, for me to put my toe in the water and get involved in this meeting, to listen to what Mikas has to say, I think the thing that really got me to come here was you talk about truth and honesty. I don't hear a lot of that. I hear a lot of pressure to stay out of sex for a year, and my best friend now, this is my first meeting in 4 years. And my best friend was my sponsor at CMA, and we're still best friends. And we talk a lot. There's a lot of pressure to, go along with what the popular sentiment is in meetings. And I think it's refreshing that you're talking about honesty. I think there's that, coming from that generation of, poppers and cocaine, and I didn't start getting involved with crystal meth until '95. I shot up for 11 years. I've got at this point, I've relapsed several times in the past 5 years. I've relapsed 3 times, and I've got 18 months on Monday. So for me, thanks. It's hard. I mean, I appreciated your share because I can relate to parts of it. I've never been that good in groups, and so I spend a lot of time by myself and a lot of porn. And but it's a healthy addiction because if I stay up all night jacking off the porn, it doesn't hurt anybody, and I haven't lost my job, but it's tough. I get lonely. I'm not good in social situations. I have ADD. I felt normal on crystal meth. And that's which is typically what do they give people that have ADD? Ritalin, to speed. So for me now, it's listening to what you share. I can relate to both what you're talking about and listening to what you had to say too. It's not that it's hard to separate it, it's just changed the way I think about sex. It's kind of like, being a pig. And, I'm the same way with food that I am with sex. Just putting myself out here is not easy for me because I'm kinky too. I'm very verbal, which, I went with Nikis to a sex party last month, which was just not a pleasant experience for me. I felt very uncomfortable. I consider myself a bottom. but a lot of guys react to me as if I'm a top because I'm older. I'm going to be 50 in January, and I'm like, I don't. And it's like, and I would do it to have sex. And I'm like, but that doesn't. You were talking about trying out what makes you feel good. And I'm like, the quickest way for me to get crystal meth used to be because I'm verbal and I'm good at role play, and guys would just get me high and they want to suck me off because I would do this whole verbal scene with them, which they love. And so it got really tied to me being, and I'm not porn star material, but I'm very good at that part of sex, and I'm very kinky, and I'm a pig, and I know how to talk to guys, and it's like, so it's hard for me. It's like even at the party we were at, guys were coming up to me wanting to suck me off, and I'm like, this is not what I'm here for. I'm here to suck you, or I'm here to bottom to you. Everybody wants me to top them, and I'm like, I'm even, I'm sorry, I'm not well hung, I'm not this big old macho guy. You were talking about straight versus femme, there's the whole issue of gender identity and issues of masculinity, and it's like all that gets triggered for me in a sexual environment. I could not see myself at one of your parties. It sounds like a blast.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. I know that I'm different, and the important thing is going back to being honest and being mindful. It's like, I know who I am.
Yeah.
If you don't like me, everyone in the room could not like me, and I'm like, that's how I feel about it. 2 fucks, I don't care. But I love Nikas. He's been a really good friend, and his honesty has been so refreshing that I wanted to come and be a part of this. And I think it's just really important is finding what your truth is. I don't know I can't speak to everyone in this room. For me, I relate more to your share, even though my history is probably more like yours, John. But it's tough. It's like I don't fit into any category really easily. I know I'm really kinky and a pig, but I'm also really intense. And it's like, where do I fit in? I'd like to have a boyfriend. I'm not ready to, sexually it's like, I'm the kind of person when I have a good time with someone sexually, I want to see them again. There's a lot of, okay, I had sex with you, on to the next one.
Right.
That's not me. I'm a pig with, it's like, I didn't stop liking pizza because I had pizza once. If I like you, I want to have sex with you again. That's not how it works, and I don't get any attention on apps. Scruff Grindr hasn't worked for me. I tried Grindr. So for me now, it's like, okay, do I want to do this? How do I feel about my body? Which is another thing. How do you feel when you're out of your clothes in a sexual environment? I've gained 10 pounds. I'm getting the speech from my doctor to lose the weight. I need to get back to the gym. There's a lot of things I need to do. And I'm like, I just want to be happy. And if I can find a way to work sex into that, that's fine. But I want to be comfortable. I don't want to feel like I have to look a certain way. This is how my abs have to look. This is how I make sure I trim down here so it looks bigger than it is. I don't want to worry about all that shit. I want to go and just be myself and not worry about, oh, he thinks I'm unattractive. He doesn't like me. The ones I'm attracted to aren't interested in me. That's where I get fucked up. I'm like, you know what? I can go out, get some crystal meth, and watch porn for 18 hours, and I'm fine. Because I have that active fantasy life, and that's the hard part. When I get into a sexual setting, it's so hyper competitive, and it's like, what do you look like? And I'm not a ginger, and I'm not a bear, and I'm not, or whatever the type is. I'm not black. Some people are race queens. Everybody has a type, and I'm like, you get into that whole thing of like, who's even attracted to me the way I am? Thank God I'm hairy, but I'm like, but I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to care about that. I just want to know that, do you like me? Are we having a good time? But for so many people, there's the whole thing of type and who they're being seen with, and then the whole social environment. So for me, it's like to even be talking about this and hearing what you're saying and listening to your truth. It's like I'm nervous as hell about the whole subject of sex. The last time I had sex, that was at that party with a couple guys there, and then the last time before that was September. If I have sex once a year, that's a lot of sex right now. It didn't used to be that way, and now it's like, what do I want to do? Where do I fit in? I'm scared to go to meetings. I'm scared to go to group sex scenes. I don't know. I just know who I am, but I like who I am, and I'm happy with who I am. And I stopped worrying about what everybody else in the fellowship thinks. And believe me, the first time I had 5 years clean and sober, that was the hardest part. I was so worried what everyone else in the fellowship was thinking. I got lucky. I got a good sponsor who's my best friend now. And so that's different because he doesn't go to meetings. This is my first meeting in 4 years. And we're just like, we don't want to deal with the bullshit of what other people think. I want to get to a place where I'm happy who I am sexually, whether it's, that I have a little bit of a belly, or that I don't have big biceps or washboard abs, we can't all work in rent now. I just want to be happy with myself, and if I can find a way to be more, I think with what you were talking about, Matt, I don't know that I could have 30 or 40 people at my house, but listen, if I could have one guy or two guys over there, that would be huge, just to be able to have sex orderly, but I don't know what that's going to look like or how I'm going to get there. There's a lot I have to work on, so I didn't mean to but you jumped in with mindfulness, and that's really helped me in my recovery. It's something that I can speak to, and that's why I kind of wanted to just jump in.
Thank you.
And say all that.
Yeah, it's just like it is the journey, but and for what I've noticed for me is like it is a journey, a lifelong journey, but I have to kind of really get comfortable with wherever I am at the moment. It's like that's like the big challenge of sobriety is of not thinking, well, if this happens, then I'll be happy, or when this happens, then I'll be. It's like no. So what if those things never? Can you be happy right now?
Yeah.
My sponsor used to say, if you're waiting for that thing to happen, then no matter what that thing is that you want, you will never be happy when that thing happens.
For me, there's just so much pressure in the gay community on body image.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
And I'm going to be 50. Trust me, I'm worried about that every day. And I make a point to counteract my own fears. I tell people what my age is. Like, you shouldn't talk. I work in the entertainment industry, in the corporate level. I'm HR for an entertainment company, and I make a point of telling people I'm 49. And they're like, oh my God, you look great. I'm like, yeah, that's nice to hear from a bunch of straight people that look great. I don't have any gay men telling me that. And then it's like, and then I worry about what my body looks like. And is someone going to be attracted to me the way I am? Like, I can grow a goatee, but it's all white now. I'm like, I don't want that, man. I'm like, I don't want to worry about it. I want to worry about what my hair looks like, whether I can get facial hair, I should go to the gym 4 times a week, and I'm like, other people's expectations become a part of my sex life, and then become a part of my recovery. And I'm like, it's so hard to be here. It's the one thing I do appreciate about this forum is that we can talk about whatever our issues are.
Yeah.
In the meeting, I couldn't. There's so much pressure to, sound happy. I'm like, I'm happy every fucking day. And I have bad days, and when I have bad days, like, I'm having a really shitty day. Oh, you're being negative. Fuck you. I need to talk about that so I can get past it. If you're trying to tell me to try and be happy and grateful when I'm not, I'm just going to stuff all that shit down. The fact that I can come here and talk about what's really going on and whether other people identify or not isn't the point, that it's safe for me to be myself in this room and to talk about the sexual issues. Crystal meth changed the way I respond sexually. I can come several times a night. So for me, it's not all about coming. I remember a comment you made to me, we were there at that sex party, like, you've already come? I'm like, yeah, but that's just what I want. Because on crystal meth, it's just like, oh, come. Okay, and it's changed my body physically. So when I'm having sex, it's like, most guys are done after the first time. I'm like, oh no, I'm just getting started. Most guys don't have that problem. I've heard guys talk in meetings about how they can't have sex because they're not high anymore. For me, it's like, I can, but I can have sex differently now. I can come several times a night. And most guys are like, I'm done. I'm one and done. And I'm like, okay, I guess I have to hold off because when I'm with you, I want to satisfy you. Again, it's all that pressure of who I am, how I appear. I'm like, I don't want to worry about all that. And I feel like your message is one about being yourself. And even though your stories are from different age groups and from different experiences, it's like you've got to find some place where you're safe and you can be sexual. I'm not anywhere near where either of you are that. I'm not as stable in a relationship. I haven't had a relationship for 16 years. And I'm starting to feel like, will anybody ever want me? And I don't feel confident enough in my body or my sexuality that I can be as sexually active as you are. So it's like I'm kind of in the middle place, stuck in the middle, I don't know what the answer is. I'm just kind of thinking out loud. So sorry if I'm boring everybody.
No.
That's what's going through my head.
Good.
I was just going to say, just jumping into the whole body image in the gay community, which is, it's terrifying.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
The bar is so fucking high. And that was part of my journey, which is to overcome my disdain for the body in which I live, and to actually start respecting it and cultivating it. And so it's funny because I was, I go to a lot of trainers because they still have severe gym phobia because I was told you don't belong there. And so it's like, yeah. But I was talking to a number of trainers, and there's a number of sober trainers whose bodies are sick. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's like their entire body is a game of Plinko that's like just arrows pointing down to their dick. It's like
Exactly.
And I asked them, I was like,
And it's not a small dick.
and I was asking, I was like, so all the work you put into your body, did it help with your self-esteem? And they all said no. And I was like, oh, so that's not going to help me. And of course, I still want pecs and abs, and I'd love a bigger dick. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But it was interesting to hear the honesty from the people that really did go through all that work. And they look fantastic. They're getting tons of outward validation, but it didn't fix the hole that's inside. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to meet this in the middle, because I'm going to have to work on the inside and work my way out, work on the outside to work my way in.
And for me, from speaking outside versus inside, it's like, what I'm attracted to, it's you walk in a room, it's like a typical romantic triangle. You're attracted to someone who's attracted to somebody else, and they're attracted to somebody else. And like, I like to go to the eagle. I like to go to the fault line. And again, going back to bars, and there's poppers, and then a lot of people, aren't talking about it now. It's very shameful, but there's a lot of closet P&P people out there now. There's a lot of that because there's so much pressure in the gay community, and it's like, I don't have a big beard, and I can't. My goatee's all white, and it's like, and I'm attracted to bears, and bears want nothing to do with me. And I'm like, and then I just go through this whole thing of like, where do I fit in? How do I get my needs met sexually? I don't know. I don't have an answer. Again, thinking out loud, but it's like, to be here and even start the process and talk about it here. It's not easy for me. I mean, I'm glad you did what you did and put yourself out there. It's tough. It's like, I don't want to have to be what other people are. It's nice that you have the versatility. For me, it's like, there's a lot of pressure on me because I'm older to fit a certain role. I don't want to be anybody's daddy. I've always been a boy, and even when I'm in my 50s, I'll still be a boy. That's who I am. And it's like, I'm not going to be happy trying to be a top to make other people sexually satisfied.
I'm
like
so
me.
happy they call me daddy now. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm never gonna have that. I mean, I just
happiness.
it doesn't work for me, and it's like, how do I? It's like I've got to get the rest of my life to work in order for the sexual part to work. Until I get the rest of my life, I've spent a lot of time trying to be there for other people, and I wanted to be at this meeting, and I told you I'd be here, and I missed the last one. It's like, so I'm trying to be there for people and build my relationships. I'm like, but I need to start being a little more selfish. I need to spend more time at the gym. I need to spend more time taking care of my health. I need to lose the weight, but I need to do it strictly for me, not because this person at the Eagles attracted me, or this person in a meeting that I really want that's never giving me the time of day, because that's just pointless. It's a waste of time trying to please other people.
And that's conditional love anyway. That's conditional love on my part, which is worthless.
I think it's important to do it for yourself, and I started, do I just say my name or not really? Okay, it's not a meeting. I started, I guess I started a fitness program about 4 years ago. Before that, just maybe a couple years, I started to see, because I was not having sex. In 10 years of sobriety, I had a handful of experiences, and none of them were any good. And I just didn't know how to navigate sex without alcohol. And so it got to a point where I started seeing, hiring massage guys off of M4M. And there was a couple that I saw consistently, not all the time, like once a month or every couple months. And I started to I was in sobriety, it was so in my head that these sessions with the, and they were good massages too. They had a happy ending, but they were also very good massages. So it put me back in touch with my body, because I just wasn't in tune with it at all. And I was having health problems like asthma and high blood pressure and cholesterol and all that stuff that goes along with aging and gaining too much weight and all that. So I started a fitness program. My older cats had died, and I was turning 50, and I said, I'm gonna going to just start. And I was really starting at ground zero with it. And I was lucky enough to get a trainer that I was not only attracted to, but he was straight. So there was no, chance of cross-pollination. But it really was, and he was really, good to me, and I, didn't make me feel ashamed for doing these basic things that I could barely do. But it was, I did it for myself, and because it was, you get to a certain point, or I got to a certain point in my life where I was taking, there's a fork in the road, and my dad always had health problems. He, in my opinion, was an alcoholic and had a number of health issues related to that. So I just saw myself going in that direction, even though I wasn't drinking. There were just other things going on. So I just took another road, and I did start getting positive feedback at the office first, because straight people are much easier to please. And that started to kind of build a momentum with me. And then, I don't know, I guess maybe 3 years ago, I actually did start on the apps and hooking up and having sober sex. And
3 years ago.
About 3 years ago. But I'm like, this was a decade drought for me. And part of that was that I had been doing these massages, and I started to work out, and I just started to kind of come home to the physical self. And it's mind, body, and spirit. The body is in that triangle, and so that's kind of my journey. And now I'm really trying to get more experience and be a little wilder and just try to go to the next,
and explore what you like.
And I had no idea what I like. The first guy I went over to his place, and it was, he'd only wanted to get head, and I was like, okay, well, and that's all he wanted. And then he was done, and I left, and I'm like, I actually like that. I had forgotten that I really like to suck a dick. So, it's a process, and it's a lot of self-reflection and learning about what I like and don't like, and I've met a lot of really nice people, like on Scruff. I've been able to filter the ones out that are partying, so but it's it's little steps at a time. So I started going to Flex. I've been there a few times this last month during the day, in the afternoon, and 2 out of the 3 times I was there, nothing happened. I was just either observing or just walking around and stuff, and that was okay too. It was an intense sexual environment, and it was kind of nice to be in that energy, male energy, sexually charged energy, and I didn't notice any tweakers there. That's not been part of my story, so I'm not that well adverse or connected to what that looks like. But that's another thing why I find this forum useful is that I don't want to be, I want to be mentally prepared if a situation like that comes up, and I've never been drawn to it, but I just don't want to be, alcohol is a concern for me. I don't want to drink, and I just don't want to be in a situation to where, I got to put it in the mind, in the awareness first, and then figure it out from that.
Yes.
Jose, this alcoholic addict sexual.
Hey.
Nikos, thanks for having this forum. Thank you guys, John, for your shares. They're actually 2 different sides of the same coin, but it was good to hear them both. For me, I've never really had a problem with sex. I started really early, like at 9, and so I had a lot of sober sex up until I was like 23. So I think that for me, sober sex is it's not a big hurdle, because I just got 6 months yesterday. So I've been playing around with sex pretty early on in sobriety. But I think for me, I had to get those reminders that after tweaking on sex, that there is a light at the end of that tunnel. Because you start to think after 2 years of daily use in sex that there is not going to be sober sex, or it's not going to work.
Right.
But that's a fear you have to walk through.
Right.
You know, it's just a fear, and it always looms larger than what it actually is. And so, you know, finally battling those fears and having the sex was great. You know, and not being triggered and not thinking about the pipe afterwards was great. It was like, wow, this is fun. I remember what this was like, you know, when I was much younger, and this is not that much different. Yes, there's not the long, enduring hours, 3 days of sex, but it's okay because by the end of those 3 days, or 7 days, or 10 days, you were twacked out and you don't even remember that partner you're really with, or you probably ended up hating that person or hating yourself by the end of it. So at least with a shorter duration of sex, you ended up on a good note for the most part, soberly. But you know, I will say that finally doing it and having that great reminder it relieved a lot of tension and a lot of fear that it was building. And so, you know, I made sure early on in sobriety that I needed to have sex because I didn't want to go out over it.
Yeah.
You know, but I have looked at it differently. I didn't want to jump into like the bathhouses or the orgies, you know, right away. I kind of had to start like from a child and be like, okay, I'm gonna have one-on-one sex, and it's gonna be on a bed, and it's gonna be in a room without the curtains being closed or any cameras or anything. So I just started with the basics, you know, just kept it really basic of like, let's go on a date, and then if we do stuff, let's go back to your place and let's have sex if it happens. If it doesn't, it's okay. And it wasn't like, let's invite 5 other guys over, let's put the camera up. It was like really like one-on-one sex. Right. And, you know, you could start with that and then work your way up to 10 guys in the room. And if you want, if I want to get there. But I'm really glad that I'm not yearning to have that right away. Like, I don't need to have that right away. I'm good with just playing around with this one-on-one sex, and maybe after a date, maybe not. So yeah, I'm glad I popped that cherry. So yeah, I just wanted to check in about that and just let you guys know that there is some good sober sex to be had. And that's all I have to share.
Thanks. I like you talk from a very intuitive place about how and what this is going to sort of mature for you, how it's going to start. You know, it's just like, but that's something each one of us knows intuitively, and it's like nobody can say no for a year or 10 guys tonight, or you know, it's just like this. There's no blanket statement that fits. But somehow it's like when we kind of really tune into, this is what feels right to me. You know, your body is the sensing organ. That doesn't feel right. This feels right, and just really following that. It's like there's this little path that's specifically your journey. Nobody else's. My journey. Nobody else's. But I need to be able to actually be willing to feel my way down that path. To use your expression, it's like I might skin my knee, but I'm willing to feel my way down the path rather than just take some blanket off the shelf, somebody else's, and then not really have the value of it.
I think feeling my way through has really been helpful, as opposed to planning my way through. Because planning my way through is not going to work, and that's when your head gets the better of you. So just do it. Just fall through it. It's okay. You have support.
Like for me, feeling your way through it. I have to battle my mind in order to do that, because the voice, the visceral voice inside is really quiet, and the brain is really loud. It's interesting for me anyway that crystal meth releases about 10 times the amount of dopamine into the brain that sex does. Cocaine releases 3 times. And dopamine it's really the salience chemical, and the fact that it tells you, pay attention to this is important for survival. So when you've experienced an amount of dopamine in the brain that humans were never meant to experience.
Yes.
Their brain all of a sudden sets a new bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's why we keep saying, no, this is important. We need this because apparently that's really important to survival. Which is why we have to battle our brain saying, no, this what?
Right.
And we're like, no, you're actually wrong.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Which
That's
is
a good point. That's a really good point.
Which is interesting from the point of view of a bipolar person, and there's a high percentage of bipolar people in the rooms, because when you're on a mania, your brain is producing almost the same amount of dopamine. More, it felt great. It was better than cocaine, and it was natural. So that's a high that is very difficult to say no to. So, it's that same, and in beneath the skin, the brain has no idea that, the difference between a mania or meth. So it's just saying we need more of this. And I have to constantly battle my brain, and I can't, whereas I kind of have constructed hoops to jump through and face my fear, and on the other side of that fear is a place of more centeredness. But yeah, I can't plan it. Like I was talking about, like right now, I'm feeling my way through it. I was just like, well, maybe I don't want to go to that party right now. I'm not going to have this stable of guys come over, and part of me is afraid that they'll lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, well, this feels right now of doing it.
Right.
Go on a date, come out, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm battling my mind. But anyway.
So it's getting close to wrapping up time. Is there anybody that would like to burning desire sort of thing? No? I'm going to be really, really nerdy, and I'm going to follow my sponsor's direction of what he told me, and that's, dude, the 11th step is so important. The book says, upon retiring night, upon waking in the morning, and many times throughout the day. He looked at me and said, how many times a day, ding dong, are you going to connect with your higher power, with your idea of the divine? I'm like, 3. He's like, yeah, 3 times a day, not 3 times a week, not 3 times a month, 3 times a day. So I'm going to be that wacky, weird guy that sits in front of the meeting saying, if you don't have a daily practice, I don't know what you're doing. But you're not doing the 12 steps as outlined in the book, which is what my sponsor told me. And I gotta say that when I actually started doing the 11th step and had a daily prayer and meditation program where I actually surrendered, I let go, I gave up, and I asked for guidance and direction, it wasn't until then that my head stopped running my life. So here's a big plug for the 11th step. Thank you. So thanks all so much for showing up today. This has really been a lovely event. Anybody else want to say anything last minute?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you to you guys online, wherever the heck you are. We're here and we know you're there. So be well, everyone. Let's finish with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work. Yeah, we can say that part. Thanks, Gall.